Today's webinar is titled Revolutionizing EMS Training, AI-Powered Virtual Scenarios for Enhanced Decision Making, presented by Rob Humbracht, ReelDx CEO, and Joseph Ah, Program Director for Granite Mountain Training in the Williamson Valley Fire District and NAEMT Training Center Coordinator. I'm going to pass it over now to our presenters. Thank you both so much for being here with us today to share your knowledge and experience with us, and we look forward to the presentation.
Thank you so much, Rio. Let me get my screen sharing going. All righty. It's such a pleasure to be here. I want to take you on a journey with me about how to use AI in your EMS program. I have spent the last 8-9 months building an AI every day, using AI as a guest lecturer in various EMS training programs. And I want to teach you all that I have learned from that process. That's the goal. You're also cordially invited to work with me in some capacity. That's my invitation to you at the end of today. I wasn't always an AI enthusiast. So before I explain who I am and what we're doing here, I want to take you back to June of last year. I thought AI was a great way for students to plagiarize their written content and maybe produce generic prose for assignments. That viewpoint was challenged when I watched the TED Talk, which you should watch this too, by Sal Khan talking about how AI can save, not destroy education. The gist, AI allows students to have an infinitely powerful, infinitely patient tutor in their pocket. So that's what brought me around, and that's where I have come. And so I want to show you what I've been building. So my name is Rob Humbracht. I've been in education for 23 years. I'm the CEO of a company called ReelDx. We have a platform that offers real patient videos and a library for use by various educational programs. Also joining me is Joseph Ah. Joseph, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Joseph. I've been working with the platform and Rob here for a bit, and it's certainly been a very great opportunity. I'm the program director for a fire-based paramedic program, and we do everything from EMT all the way up to paramedic, in addition to what everyone's familiar with, which is the NAEMT education.
All right, I want to show you all off the top here what a use case for AI looks like. So the new product that I created using AI, my education team and I created, is called In Situ. And what we do is we start with a real HIPAA compliant patient video case, which is a normal ReelDx case. So I'm going to play a copy of that, and hopefully you guys can see the first question here.
Good afternoon. How you doing? Good. I'm Dr. Moore over here at Yale New Haven Hospital. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this video. Okay. Do you mind telling us, going back, what happened, when you first came to the emergency department? I guess it was a couple of days ago, but what was the symptoms? What were the symptoms you were having, and why did you come?
It's bad legs, sore legs, and they said something wrong with my kidney.
All right, so this is the patient, and we start with the patient interview to ground the experience in reality. So students really think they're meeting an actual patient. The change here is that now students can finish the interview by interviewing the patient, now powered by AI. So this is a recording of me doing this from earlier. I wanted to make sure that the internet bandwidth could support both the live webinar and this. So this is what it actually looks like when we're interviewing. So you can ask the patient anything you normally would ask a patient, and the patient responds in the patient's own voice. So each of these AI cases is trained on an actual patient transcript, which means it sounds like the actual patient. We started building by allowing students to type back and forth with the patient. These days, they can actually talk back and forth with the patient, which is pretty neat. So I won't bore you with the details of my patient interview. I just want to give you a sense for what the AI is capable of here. So you go through all the questions. At some point, you say, all right, we're good. And then let me see if I can pause that there. So the AI will then give you feedback So we have it giving a grade of either doesn't meet expectations, meets expectations, or exceeds expectations. So the AI preceptor can give you personalized, tailored feedback here. So here are the areas for improvement, questions to ask for future interviews. So that's pretty neat. It's pretty neat that it'll give you personalized feedback at scale. Possibly neater than that, though, is being able to do the next, so that you can set your goals. You can now debate a differential diagnosis with the AI preceptor. So the AI preceptor is not playing for me. Play. Here we go. So I am not a healthcare educator, but you can start by debating which are the possible what are the possible things that are wrong with the patient? What's on your differential? The preceptor will then prompt you, say, hey, justify your diagnosis. And unlike most preceptors that I've met over my career, this one's, again, infinitely patient. It will work a student through wherever they're at, through their differential. You can also have it do other things like select a final diagnosis or decide what you would do with the patient, with their disposition. All of these things are possible with clever AI prompting, metric tons of testing, and grounding it in peer-reviewed medical information. So this is what we've built here in the last 6-8 months, that has taken an ounce, just a lot of work from me and the team. And so I want to present not just the thing that we made, but also I want to talk about what we were thinking along the way and how we built it. So let's take a look at the next step here. So what is the evidence that ChatGPT actually can do this clinical reasoning stuff? There's a lot. So the first point is simply that there's evidence that ChatGPT is really accurate. It's scored higher on the USMLE than most medical students. It responds better than humans to patient questions, both with the accuracy of the information and with its empathy and its tone. And of course, the final point about this is the dumbest AI we will ever interact with. AI is rapidly improving over time. I've seen that in the short 8 months that I've been building with it, and it's only ever going to get better from here. So it's really can be an impressive tool for good if we know how to harness it. Benefits of using ChatGPT in EMS education. There are several. The first would just be it allows for realistic role playing. Sure, you can use other students to do role playing, but it can be a source of always on role playing. The interactions are, of course, low stakes. You're not dealing with actual patients here. It's always on demand. You can get exposure to diverse patient populations that you might not have access to otherwise in your ride-alongs. And of course, it's a great personal teaching assistant. So this next slide is a way for you to think about how AI fits into the other tools available to us for clinical reasoning. So imagine that we put all existing educational tools on a chart. And on the left side is the resource utilization. How much scheduling resources does it take? How expensive is it? You want low to be up at the top. You want that. You want the clinical reasoning tools to have low resource utilization, because that means they're going to be more broadly available and less expensive. But of course, you also want them to be as realistic as possible. How do we make our education as close to real world as we can? The gold standard has always been clinical rotations. So actually being in the field is the gold standard. It is very realistic and, of course, high on our resource utilization. Maybe slightly less realistic, but still quite high on resources would be simulated patients or a simulation lab, if your program is lucky enough to have access to such resources, such as paid actors to act as patients. That would go there. On the far end of the scale would be what's low resource utilization and, of course, not terribly realistic, would be textbooks. Everybody's got them. Nothing wrong with using textbooks. Again, they're easy to get. They are the bedrock of EMS education in many ways. You can also have your students interact with each other to provide a little more realism, right? Problem-based learning or role-playing scenarios. And then the way that technology has traditionally come into this picture has been through virtual reality. So you read a lot about virtual reality. When you go to conferences, you see booths. They're really neat to put on the headset. very high resource utilization, and they're not there yet with the realism. They just don't feel like you're actually in live. So where does AI enter? Well, AI is relatively low resource utilization. Every one of your students has access to it for free right now. So that's nice. That's an advantage of it. It's not that realistic without some work on your behalf as the teacher to make it perform the way you want it to. So one of the advantages of hopefully working with me and helping with this would be that we've already done a lot of that hard work to prep specific patients for specific scenarios, to do all of that testing of the different prompts. And frankly, I need your help in tailoring this thing because I would love to hear how you would use AI in your program. So I want to pause here to invite my co-presenter on, Joseph. Joseph, of the different clinical reasoning tools listed here, what have you all traditionally used and what are you moving toward?
Yes, good points. So we've played with a lot of different things in the programs and throughout the years, as a lot of people have that have been involved in programs. Whether you're an instructor, the director, an adjunct, or tech, you're familiar with the foundation, the textbooks. But all this time, for years, for decades, we're always trying to bring this to life, and it's definitely getting interesting with the AI. We've tried VR, we've tried different programs and third parties, and we really want to have a lot of versatility in this. The most, the farthest I'd say we can go with this is you want to be able to scale it to the audience and the size of your cohorts. So if you have 6 patients, sure, simulated patient labs, VR, that becomes a reasonable approach. But if you have a class typically, and we do have classes of 20 or even 24 or 30, depending on which state you're in, how do we scale up our programs conveniently to fit these classrooms and these cohorts? That's where this AI is right there, crucially in the middle. And we've used this and built it into the stock platform, JB Learning, and that's right there with the textbook. So it has the versatility of going, okay, here's low textbook, JB Learning that we're all familiar with, but you can build this into that same stock platform, just as the example on the screen. Case 1020, that's assigned to student last name Bunt. Okay, so now this student knows I need to go on to this platform. I need to interact with this patient in real time and bring it to life how I want to do it. And then you have the flexibility of making the grading criteria just as you always have. So it builds on everything. This doesn't replace things, it enhances everything. It enhances everything, whether you have a size class of 2 or a size class of 20, and you can bring this thing to life. So with us, we take our students and we lace this in and we give them a general idea and some free resources on how they want to make their presentations. In this case, we took, 1016 Smith, or in this case, 1020, and which was case 919 for this student. And the student went just great. We get just great, fantastic reviews in comparison to what we've done in the past. And everyone who's gone through a program typically has done the old school, hey, here you're assigned to pulmonary hemosiderosis. And the student's sitting there like, what in the heck? We're trying to make a broad general medical education for these students. Yes, it's paramedic and they're going to have those paramedic specific cases, but we're trying to do them a service on saying, hey, this is what the physicians see on the ultrasounds. This is what the lab values are. So they become more interactive in these cases. Then in the next slide, you'll see this student put together just a great tailored peer-to-peer presentation in class. So for example, in real time, I was sitting there in the classroom and this student is just really going into not just the case itself, but the pathophysiology, because it's supported, as Rob said, with these peer-reviewed APA cited sources that are great and available to them straight from the platform. So it brings it to life more than we've ever seen this, more than I certainly have ever seen it throughout my years of being an educator. Where the old school is really just brick and mortar. Okay, well, I typed up a 2-page, PDF Word document on this, and you're turning it into the professor, and they're getting a grade, and they're generally explaining it to the students. each student can bring this to life and watch it on their own as well. So it's very good stuff. Now on the next slide, we'll see that depending on which route you go and how you want to build this into your program, it's very flexible on how you want to do this. Do you want them to have more pathophysiology in it? That's there in the ReelDx platform. It's guiding them. It's not telling them what to do. It's not fixated on, well, you have to ask these specific questions. It's completely adaptive and it's dynamic, just like the real cases out there in the field. So that's the importance here that I've constantly seen is, how do we take a student and show competency? How do we show that they're going from this trimester into a summative, into a capstone, into this next level stuff? And with the AI, it's measurable. We're all trying to collect data and create measurements in the program so we can fill out our Excel sheets and send them on to accreditation, and also look at our own program and improve from this. But how do we measure just a Word document that's submitted to us as a case study? It's very difficult. ReelDx can bring it to life, in situ interaction, seeing what these students are critically thinking and asking in real time. That's a different ballgame.
So, hey, Joseph, let me make sure I understand. And I also want to make sure that we allow the attendees here to ask questions of how you have integrated this. So your paramedic program is how many weeks?
It's 10 weeks long, and it has a total of over 500 hours of contact in class time, within about 600 hours of field and clinical time.
And so is JB Learning the core resource that you guys use?
Yes, JB Learning is the stock platform, and we build it into the stock platform. JB Learning, as a lot of providers know, is I want to call it the standard. It's the expectation of the standard nationwide.
Yeah. And so then this case study is based on a traditional ReelDx case. How many of these do your students do?
They do one every 2 weeks as their disease profiles. Yeah.
Got it. And so this was a student who would you say this is a typical submission from a student that you asked for?
Yes, the formatting and how they do it is on a Prezi or on a PowerPoint, however they want to make it, and they become the classroom. They become the teacher. So your student becomes a teacher, stands up in front of everybody, uses the whiteboard, uses their slides, and puts this whole thing together in depth. It's fantastic to watch.
That's great. And so you graciously this week interviewed 2 of your students. And so this feels a little bit like a shameless plug, but I didn't know what they were going to say. And so here's the first student chiming in on their experience.
ReelDx has made my job as being a paramedic student a lot more realistic, because I can sit there, find a patient, get their vitals, learn the differential diagnosis, and figure out what's going on with this patient down at a very low cellular level. And it helps me out to do my AMLS and help my patient further.
All right, and then your second student that you interviewed.
Go for it.
I've enjoyed ReelDx because it's brought a lot of our textbook to life. I've been able to see kind of the process that physicians will go through, and it's helped my assessments a lot.
Are those typical students for you, Joseph?
Yep. Those are typical reactions from using the platform, which is fantastic. I like that. The first one I'd mentioned AMLS, because AMLS as an NAMT class really goes into depth with pathophysiology, and linking it in with Ashley over there. Yeah, like I said, we're trying to get a general medical education for these paramedic students, and they don't spend, if you think about it, how often do we get to spend clinical wise with a physician? Not that often, but when we do, it's extremely beneficial. So having this platform and seeing that process, like she said, great, go ahead and spend some time with the physician. Fantastic.
All right. Well, if you all have questions here in the audience, please type them into the chat. We will be monitoring that and can respond. So Joseph and I have been working together for it seems like 2 years at this point, and so I loved the way that you brought bring the cases to life and really make the students interact with them. When we started building with AI, I wanted to create something that could be utilized by students without access to an educator quite like Joseph. So how can we get AI to act as both the interactive form of the preceptor and as the interactive form of the student? So So I wanted to show you all ways to integrate AI, whether you use in situ or not. So this is a sample prompt that, again, one of the things that I would love for you all to have the slides from today, if you're interested in trying this. When you're working with AI, it is like ChatGPT 4 is trained on all published web data and websites through April of 2023. And so, and it now does connect live to websites. So it can do a lot of different things, and it still has quirks to it when you try to get it to, say, act like an EMS educator. So this is a sample prompt that I wrote up and tested for today. This has only a little bit to do with building in situ, because I was trying to think about what could I give to you all that you could then use with your classroom as soon as you wanted to. So so pretend you're an EMS educator. So I highlighted that part because one of the best ways to create a prompt is to give the AI a role and define that role. It doesn't otherwise know what you want it to do. Be very clear with what they're assessing the students on. So this time they're going to assess the student on how quickly they respond and how well they justify their reasoning. The scenario is during a bustling city marathon. You're a paramedic student and you're stationed at a medical tent. Suddenly a runner collapses a short distance from your position, drawing immediate attention. As you rush to assess the situation, you find not one, but two individuals in distress, the runner and a spectator. And so then here are the decisions the student should make. You'll notice that providing these hashtags can give the AI a place to refer back. So you're feeding a lot of information to the AI, and this will allow it to navigate that information without screwing things up or getting confused. And you could edit this to make the students walk through whatever you want. When you are giving instructions to the AI, you want to tell it very explicitly what to do and when to do it. So start by presenting the scenario to the student. Whoops, let me go back. And then tell it what not to do. Do not walk the student through the entire scenario at the start. So as you start to test these prompts, you'll notice that the AI falls into certain patterns that are annoying. So you've got to be very specific with it in the way that make it behave the way that you want to. All right. Questions on using this prompt? Does this prompt, I mean, yeah. I like to tell my students, the only dumb questions are the ones you don't ask. Please feel free to chime in, y'all. All right. Not seeing any questions currently. Let me move on to the next challenge of working with AI, which is AI presents very specific challenges. So when we were rolling out this product of In Situ, there's a host of problems with AI that you may or may not have heard of. So the first challenge is the accuracy of the medical information. How do you know the information that it's giving to students is up to the latest standards? And the answer is you don't. From what I can tell, ChatGPT has been trained on UpToDate and on a couple other open source sites, but figuring out how it knows what it knows is really tricky. So one of the things that we did to work around this was to tell it, use the following information in responding to students. So defining for it the expertise. The second would be to ground it in an actual peer-reviewed case. So you know that the information that it's delivering on that case is accurate and consistent. All right. Second is reproduction of biases. Because AI is trained on, well, the World Wide Web, which is the best and not so best part of humanity, it will replicate those biases unless you take specific steps to avoid it. So the ways that we have been working through that has been to specifically choose diverse patients for the AI to be based on, such that students are getting a benefit from working with the AI cases of building an interactive component with diverse cases, but then also carefully auditing the feedback that the AI gives for signs of bias. That takes a lot of testing and monitoring of that stuff. The next problem, of course, is hallucination. AI makes stuff up. The only solution to it is human oversight, as far as I can tell, because it will swear to you that it's right, even when it's wrong. So fortunately, it doesn't hallucinate as much as it used to when I first started building on this, but any prompt that you use, you're going to want to test it a lot to make sure that it doesn't behave poorly or hallucinate. The other problem is inconsistency. Sometimes the AI will respond with precisely what you want it to. Sometimes it won't. So that prompt that I presented for you all has been fine-tuned a little bit. I ran it several times to see if it would behave well. And it takes a while for it to finally spit out precisely what you want each and every time. It also helps to teach students what are the strengths and weaknesses of AI. Ways of thinking about AI. It's a helpful, friendly TA that will give you mostly accurate information most of the time. So setting their expectations can help if there's any kind of inconsistency with maybe what they've learned in the textbook, which of course has been highly vetted. Last one is just privacy concerns. So the way, if you're feeding information into OpenAI, you don't know what OpenAI is going to do with that information. So just make sure that you're using HIPAA compliant patient cases. Make sure that you are not using information that could potentially be reproduced elsewhere. All right. I see a question that's come in from Robert May. Robert, thank you for chiming in. Said you would have to immediately type in that prompt into ChatGPT before the student, who would then sit down at the screen to respond to it. There's ways that you could do this. You could have each of your students at their laptops, each open to a ChatGPT version. Bing Chat, now I think it's now called Copilot as of Sunday when they rebranded and had the Super Bowl ad. Bing Chat is based on ChatGPT 4.0. So as long as they are interacting with ChatGPT 4.0, they can copy and paste this in, and then it would walk them through the rest of the situation themselves. You could have them export that to PDF and potentially review it, but the use case of this sample prompt would be for additional practice for students or as the basis of a classroom discussion or interaction. So Joseph, if your students were responding to a situation like this, how could you imagine using it in your program?
Yeah, we've used this as part of the old world. This is just a new take on it, really. It just folds over and enhances it. If you think about it, you stand up in front of the classroom and you got paramedic or EMT students, and you're presenting what I like to think about as the marathon man case. And there could be anything wrong with the marathon man case, and they're, going over differentials. And typically, traditionally, you'd be up there in lectures saying, hey, what are some differentials? If somebody's complaining of chest pain, what could that mean? Or shortness of breath with this bystander, what could that mean? Especially if it's in the situation where there's a marathon and now you have environmental concerns, you have the cardiac emergencies, you have even neurological or anaphylaxis emergencies. Now you have interaction with that, so it brings it to life. So we're not really doing anything unique or very different, but we're enhancing it, folding it over into the classroom, and now your students can interact with somebody, so to speak, right? Or that TA, not repetitively you again as that traditional instructor. Oh, it's him again and it's his voice. They get to use their own imagination a little bit, so it's very fun.
Nice. Robert, thanks for the question. That was a good one. All right, so however you use AI, just make sure that you know its pros and cons. And definitely as you start using it, it helps to be there live. So when I guest lectured with Joseph's class and used in situ, it was really helpful to be there to see students' reactions and also be able to respond to questions that they had, because they're getting used to this too. It's not like they know precisely what AI can do. All right. The next up is I wanted to talk about considerations for integrating AI into your curriculum. These might seem obvious, but as you do this, make sure that you are intentional with what you are doing. So align the AI with specific learning objectives. It helps to pair cases with units and rotations, or with, say, the textbook that they're working on. Make sure that all faculty have training on how to use AI, because my experience is just that not very many people still use AI regularly. Make sure that there's feedback mechanisms. So as you implement this in the classroom, that there's a way for students to give you feedback on its use. what they do and don't like, what they do and don't need. Make sure that you integrate this as part of assessment. So I was talking with another ReelDx customer yesterday, and they were saying that what ChatGPT has done has made the written assignments they used to require of students essentially worthless, because they work on them in groups and they can use ChatGPT to answer those assignments and just turn that in. So one of the nice things about building an interactive AI prompt is no one can hide. Everybody has to interact with the AI preceptor, and they can't really use AI to cheat because they've got to just do it in a timed setting. So it's a nice way to use as a pseudo assessment, or perhaps as a replacement for some of the more old school assignments. If you use AI in the classroom, you're going to have somebody on hand to do tech support, just the nature of the beast. I'll tell you that the providers of the large language models go in and out with its availability. Sometimes it is seamless and smooth. Other times it takes a lot longer. So knowing how to solve those problems and work around that is important. And then just you need to commit yourself to continuous evaluation and improvement, because it's a new technology and we're all trying to figure out how it works. All righty. So I would love to work with you all. This QR code will take you to a place where you can ask to be invited to download the slides, where you can book some time with me to discuss how you want to use AI with your program. I offer my time to you as just a thank you for being here. And if there's anything I can do to answer questions, help you decide next steps, I would love to. I would also benefit from hearing your vantage point, your perspective. Because this is such a new technology and we're trying to bring it to a wider audience, I rely on you to be the eyes and ears on the ground, the veteran educators who know what works and what doesn't for students. The beta program involves essentially testing in situ with your students in whatever way you feel comfortable with. So whether that's inviting me in to help present it with you, or having students work on it asynchronously on like a week-by-week basis, or however else we might imagine. But I'm looking for feedback to try to make this more realistic and a better overall resource for students. Let me make sure that the form here, I'll put the form here in the chat. There we go. That should work. I had to just type that now. All right. There's a lot of references from the research today that I just wanted you guys to know that this is not just me shooting from the hip here. But I really wanted to have some time here at the end to answer any and all questions that you all would have about using AI. It can be from any part of this presentation or something that we haven't talked about. Kicking us off here is Howard. Howard said, will you be able to add local protocols? That is an interesting challenge. So how do you build a resource that is universally applicable but customizable? And the solution is to make your prompts be editable by faculty themselves. So depending on the case and depending on the protocol, you can build it into the specific prompt and you can build it into the specific case. So we're thinking through how we could do that in our platform, but that is definitely something that is critical for your students. So that's a good question. Joseph, can you give me an example of maybe the protocols that differ for your students versus the rest of the country?
Yeah, it's always a challenge for each program, and especially when you design the curriculum, it's a good example is American Heart Association. So you have all those golden standards that everyone follows, AHA protocols, which a lot of this AI is going to be aware of. So it's going to give you a generalized answer based off of protocols that are always very close, because AHA is always the standard and it's pulling up best practices and best standards. But how do you customize it? Just like Rob said, you'd have to figure out a very unique, very specific prompt that you're requesting from it. State of Arizona, for instance, state of Arizona protocols are available online, World Wide Web. Same with Arkansas, same with Nevada. So these are resources that are, the AI has access to this. So it would really be specific, I'd imagine, to the prompts. And then, of course, tailored by the instructor and the faculty.
So Joseph, if we're talking about a local protocol, is there a website that will detail precisely the local protocol and what is included in it?
Right. If you were able to give the AI that information, it could function based off of that information. Every state has a local protocol, and you can download that based off of your base station hospitals and upload it, and there it goes. I have messed with that a little bit, and it was reasonably successful.
So Howard, you can't feed too much text in a prompt to an AI and have it respond appropriately. But what you can do is say, hey, here's the most important bits of the local protocol. Or you can say, go reference this URL, and then using the standards you find there, guide the student through the following scenario. So there's solutions to this problem. But it is a tricky problem, and it goes back to that problem of AI more generally, of how do you get it to use the source material you want it to, because it's trained on literally every word on the internet, as far as I can tell, through April 2023. So it doesn't know what's relevant and what's not to your students unless you give it very specific instructions. All right. Great question. I see a question in the chat from Charles. Is there a way to integrate into Moodle/Blackboard LMS, or is it a separate login portal? So the tool that, the way that ReelDx works is each case has a URL. And so students can be presented that URL from within a learning management system like Blackboard or Moodle, or Canvas is the one that we typically have gotten that question about the most. So they can follow the URL, and it can be set up to do a single sign-in, or students can just be prompted for their login. And then once they log in once, it remembers them and they can go back and forth. Joseph, do you guys use JB Learning as your LMS, basically?
Yeah, JB Learning, you can upload a different variety of formats. So I believe what Charles is getting at is the Moodles, you can design and customize a Moodle in JB. It really depends on what you're trying to do there. If you're just trying to make a general submission assignment, or if you're trying to build this in straight into JB. Like Rob's saying, you can't build this specifically straight into JB as it's not integrated into the stock platform, but you can build the accessory Moodle on top of that, and then the students can have links in there that are automate, basically. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, the way that we do the AI submissions is when a student is finished with their interview, say, or they're finished with the interaction around the differential diagnosis, they can export that to a PDF, and then they could then turn that back into whatever platform they needed. It's obviously not the most elegant solution, but it's, as y'all know, it's hard to get these systems to talk to each other properly, and there's many different systems. All right. Amanda says, would the AI preceptors be able to be connected with the specific textbook for the course being taught? Woo. Probably not. For obvious reasons, the copyright protected textbook writers and publishers would not want their information crawled by AI bots. You're starting to see a lot of lawsuits, mostly in the entertainment industry, around, hey, this AI was trained on all of Stephen King's books. Shouldn't he get some sort of royalties for that? Like those kinds of conversations being had. Fortunately for the AI companies, they're already valued at billions and billions of dollars, so they now have the money to survive such lawsuits. But getting it to reference a specific textbook is probably not possible. What we have done is there are certain source materials that are reasonably acknowledged to be expert, where you can have access to their data. And so then what you can do is within the prompt itself, or within the case itself, you can give specific resources of source material to consider, and obviously it's going to take a lot of work on your end if you want to say, all right, I'm going to copy and paste in this text into the prompt and have this work. We have typically used sources from specific expert organizations that have the latest standards that are relevant to the case, pointed that in the AI in that direction before it responds to the student, or used a more generalized resource. So that's a good question, and it's one of the thorny problems of working with AI. All right, thanks for the question, Amanda. Yeah, Charles, I don't have open the platform itself right now, but if you guys are interested in booking a few minutes with me, I can show you how it works, and we can talk about how that might apply for your students. Yeah, of course. Any other questions, y'all? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and enter my email address into the chat here. If you guys have follow-up questions, you're welcome to ping me directly. Joseph, I don't know if you feel the same way. Do you want them to run the questions through me? It's okay if the answer is yes.
Yeah, they can refer to you on the technicalities there.
Perfect. Otherwise, thank you guys for coming, and I hope you got something from this presentation.
Perfect. All right. Rob, thank you so much. And Joseph, thank you so much for being here. We really do value our corporate partnership with RealDx. So it was fantastic to have you here today. I truly hope that everybody took something away from this presentation, and I will be sure to include the link to the form and Rob's email in tomorrow's follow-up email so that you can connect with him. I have dropped the link in the chat to register for the CE for this webinar, but if you missed that, again, no worries, that will also be in tomorrow's follow-up email. So with that, I think we will go ahead and end this webinar for today, and I truly appreciate you both being here, and thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye.